Should I switch to Godot or Unreal, or should I stay with Unity? This is a question I've been asking myself over the last few weeks, pretty much every single day. I'm gonna go over some of the things that have been going in my mind when I'm thinking about switching to Godot or switching to Unreal or staying with Unity. I'm gonna talk about maybe the pros and cons, and maybe this video will help you, but I'm mostly making this video so I can kind of bring a discussion and see if anybody has any ideas on what they think I should do as well, just some input. As I am currently a solo indie developer, I just finished my first game ever in Unity. It took me about 1.5 to 2 years to do this, but of course I had to learn some programming in the beginning, so that's why it took me so long for such a simple mobile game. The game was called Foxtrot. I was really happy about the results, but funny enough, around maybe like a week or two after I finished my game, this whole runtime fee with Unity came up. And if you don't know anything about the runtime fee with Unity, you probably do because it's been everywhere. But if you don't, the new runtime fee change was where they wanted to charge people if they made $200,000, and then they were going to start charging people 20 cents per install. And this came up with a lot of problems because a lot of free-to-play games aren't making 20 cents per install, so a lot of these games would have went bankrupt based on the new Unity pricing model. However, they recently just changed it again to where no matter what happens, the revenue share cannot go above 2.5%. So you either choose this runtime fee or you just choose a flat fee of 2.5%. So you won't go bankrupt anymore. However, there's a different issue at hand, and that's whether or not we can trust Unity as a company any longer. They kind of made this new runtime fee thing on a dime, and it can be technically switched at any time. And the only reason it was changed to the 2.5% was because it had such a massive backlash that they literally had to, otherwise Unity was going to have some major issues as a company, probably financially, if they didn't make a change. So where I am now is I'm asking myself, do I switch engines or do I stick with Unity for a bit longer and see how it goes? I can tell you in the end of the video kind of where I'm leaning, and you'll probably kind of guess. But let's start with these two other engines that I've been considering and most other people have been considering is Godot and Unreal. Both of these engines are probably the biggest contenders for Unity, biggest contenders coming from Unity. And there are other engines out there. However, when it comes to learning an engine, this is the problem. It takes a lot of time. And so a lot of people might ask, why don't you just learn both? Why don't you just dive into both? Do Godot for 2D games, do Unreal for 3D games. I don't know if you guys have ever tried to learn a game engine. Probably a lot of you have. A lot of you watching this are probably indie game developers yourself. But I want you to kind of think of that process it took you to learn it. Maybe it's different for you, but for me, it took me a pretty long time to get as comfortable as I am with Unity. It took me about 1.5 years to get as comfortable as I am with Unity. Granted, I was new to the scene of indie game development, so learning Godot or Unreal will be quicker. But it did take me quite some time, and learning a massive tool like a game engine takes time. And to get fluent at it, and fluid takes takes a long time. So that's why I'm not really interested in learning both engines. You know, something the goblins always say in World of Warcraft, which I always found to be a true statement, is time is money, friend.
Time is money, friend.
So that's why I'm going to go over the reasons why I would learn Godot over Unreal, and I will go over the reasons I would learn Unreal over Godot. So let's start with Godot's funding. So currently right now, Godot has almost doubled its funding over the last month or so. It went from, I think, around 25K, don't quote me, but around 25K from what I've heard, to about 50K where it is now, which is insane. It's doubled its funding every single month. So this means Godot is going to increase in quality, and it's going to get much better pretty quickly. Now, how quickly? I don't know. Things take time to develop, especially when it comes to the world of programming. But I think it's going to be relatively quickly because they're going to want to be a competitor in the game engine scene. But the good thing about Godot is that it's open source, it's free to use, and you're never ever going to get charged any kind of runtime fee, most likely. And if they ever did try that, guess what? People have the open source code, and they could just make another branch of Godot that is completely free. So from what I hear, when looking at Godot actually has some really great 2D capabilities. I've seen some of the game examples of Godot that have done games in 2D, and it's really cool, and it's actually pretty awesome to see what the engine is capable of. Now the problem is when it comes to the 3D, and I've seen examples where games running in 3D are kind of struggling from what I can tell. And yes, this will get better over time, but in the moment, right now, if I'm developing a 3D game, is Godot the right choice for me? And I don't know. I think if I'm making a very simple 3D game, it's probably fine, but if I make anything that's kind of medium to large size, it makes me worry a little bit, and I'm not really sure. Another problem that I'm not really sure with Godot is that right now, its .NET is not really performing as well as I thought it would. I've been looking at some videos of performance tests, and from what I can tell, Godot's .NET isn't performing a whole lot better than its GD script. And so I'm wondering to myself, is there really any benefit to working with .NET and Godot? And coming from Unity, that's my preferred language, is C#. I know that this is going to get better in the future, and I know that there's going to be progress, but I just don't know how quickly exactly this progress will come and what I should do when it comes to developing 3D games. Now, let's look at Unreal Engine and the reason why I might go with Unreal Engine. So Unreal Engine obviously has some of the greatest 3D capabilities in the industry, if not the greatest. It's super realistic. The tools are super impressive. You can build 3D games, and they can run really smoothly if you do it right. The engine has been made for AAA games, but that comes with a con. From what I can see, the compiling times with Unreal are pretty slow. So when you're talking about a solo developer or small indie development group, you want your developing time to be pretty quick. You want to be able to build these games really fast. And I'm just not sure if building games really fast is something you can do in Unreal Engine when it takes so long to compile and build these games. So if you need to build a game for testing and you have to wait like 30 minutes to an hour, that time adds up because you got to do that quite often when it comes to testing. And so I'm not really sure about the processing times of Unreal versus something like Godot, where the processing times to build a game is like pretty quick from what I hear. It's even faster than Unity. And Unity is not too slow. But another bonus of Unreal is that they have monthly free giveaways of really great tools and assets that you can use every month that just plug straight into the Unreal Engine. So every month I go and I grab those free assets, and I can use those free assets actually in other engines if it's just like a 3D model or certain animations and stuff like that. But I'm talking about mostly the tools that you use to make development easier aren't going to be plug and play for other engines. They're only going to be useful for Unreal's engine. And when it comes to tools and plugins, I don't know really what Godot offers. Maybe you guys can tell me better what Godot offers as far as plugins and stuff like that. But I don't really know what Godot offers as far as these cool asset plugins. Unity had a lot of these. Like, you would go into the Unity asset store and you would just see all these free tools that people created that would make your development process like so much easier and so much more fluid. And Unity was very customizable. And I believe Unreal probably has that too, but I don't know how much Godot has it. I don't really know. I've never heard of anybody talking about this. So that's one question I have when it comes to switching to Godot or Unreal. Another drawback to choosing Unreal over Godot is that it uses C++. So you're not going to be using .NET or C# to build your games. From what I've seen, C# and C++ aren't incredibly different, especially when it comes to Unreal Engine. And the reason I say that is that I believe that Unreal Engine takes care of a lot of the memory allocation and stuff that you normally would have to do in like a C# program. So there is some complications that C++ has that C# doesn't have. It is a lower level language, so that is one thing to consider versus maybe having to learn GDScript, which is actually an easier language to probably learn than C#. So these are all things to keep in mind. The time that it takes to learn these languages. And you might say to me, well, Lanceray, you can just simply use blueprints. As a developer, I don't really want to use Blueprint to just solely rely on blueprints. I would want to use maybe a combination of both, because I like the fact that programming skills are very, very transferable when it comes to learning different tools, and blueprints is probably not nearly as transferable skill as C++ would be, right? However, blueprints can speed up the process of development, I believe. I don't know that for a fact, but it seems like it can. And say you want to collab with other developers, people can easily collaborate and look at your blueprints and tell kind of what's going on. But I don't want to solely rely on blueprints, and that's why I would want to learn the C++ component of Unreal Engine. Another con with Unreal is that it is also a big game development company, and right now their revenue share is 5% if you earn over $1 million. This could also change on a dime. However, Epic has been much more reliable than Unity has over the last few years, and so could they switch? Yes. Are they likely to switch? Probably not, especially after seeing the backlash with Unity. So after all these pros and cons, where am I leaning towards? What am I thinking? Am I going to stick with Unity because it's what I know and they changed their pricing plan back to something that's much more reasonable? Or am I leaning towards Godot? Or am I leaning towards Unreal? And if I'm going to be completely honest, I kind of don't know. I'll tell you this, I'm greatly considering switching from Unity. And I actually do want to start learning one of those two other engines because I do want to have a backup plan. So what I'm thinking that I'm going to do after I finish building Foxtrot for the PC, because that's what I'm currently working on. If you haven't checked it out, go ahead and check it out on Google Play. It's a free-to-play game. Just a little plug in there. It's my first indie game ever, so I'm really trying to encourage people to let me know what they think about it and how I can improve. And I'm going to release it on itch.io probably in the next month. But after I finish finishing Foxtrot for the PC, what I want to do is I want to take about a week or two in each engine, Unreal and Godot, and really feel it out. Like, where do I want to go? I think this will help me kind of decide. And I want you guys to also give me your input. I want you guys to tell me what you think is the best idea as a solo developer in the indie game industry. Should I go with Unreal or should I go with Godot? And please give me your reasons why. Don't just say, like, go with Godot, don't go with Unreal. I would like a pretty good explanation on why I should go with one or the other. And if you tell me to learn both, I just don't have the time. I don't know how you guys have the time. Honestly, maybe if I took like a year's span of time to learn both, yeah, okay. And I'm not talking about just the surface level stuff. I'm talking about deeply learning these engines and getting really, really good at the development process in these engines. Because I want to be proficient at the tool so I can develop better and better games with that tool. So yeah, please let me know what you guys think. Tell me if I should just stick with Unity. I doubt you're going to say that. Or if I should go with Godot or Unreal. Thanks for watching the video. Again, if you guys haven't checked out my free-to-play game on Google Play, please go download it. Subscribe if you like the video. I'm going to be releasing Foxtrot for the PC. And thanks. I guess I'll see you guys in the next video. Later.